So I would like to welcome our today's guest, which is Chetna Krishna. So Chetna Krishna is a science writer and communicator by profession, and she manages the social media channels of the largest particle physics laboratory in the world, which is CERN. And previously, she has completed her internship at Germany's international broadcaster, Deutsche Welle, where she covered news for Asia and the environment department, and also did a few voice covers for science shows Eco India and Manthan, broadcasted on India's oldest TV channel, Doordarshan, commonly known as DD National. So let's start our today's webinar on science communication. Welcome, Chetna.
So I'm Chetna Krishna, and I started working at CERN 2 years ago as in the social media team, which is part of education, communications, and outreach. So today I want to take you through the work of scientists at CERN, but also the work that goes in sharing that science. And thank you, Priyal and everyone for having me. Priyal, I would have to ask you to share the slides because, it's not working on my side.
Okay, I'll share it. Just give me a moment. I'll share it.
Oh, you see my screen?
Yeah, you can.
Okay, so before we start about talking about CERN, I wanted to give an overview of what CERN is. So in a second, Priyal will show you the video. And I just wanted to give you the excitement of CERN. Some of you might already know about it, but it's a good summary. And then today we will answer your questions. So feel free. Okay, great. So before we start, maybe people want to answer which language does the CERN acronym come from? Because it's a short form like NASA. So if people, I'm just interested to know, maybe this video will answer it or not. I don't remember. And so,
or you would like to answer? You would like to hear their answers first.
If someone wants to unmute and say, that would be fine. Or let's start with the video.
Okay.
Thanks, Grace. Operation will begin in 7 hours.
Okay, so there are 23 member states at CERN from Europe, but then there are lots of associate member states like India, Bangladesh, Afghanistan, now recently Brazil joined. So it's expanding all over the world. And yes, this is just one person, me, and I'll share my work today. So yes, Priyal, go ahead. I can see it, just not in perfect. So everyone, I started studying mechanical engineering 4 years ago. At least that was the plan. And when I started mechanical engineering, I realized I miss science. I like science, but not enough to be an engineer. So a few years down the line, I changed many programs. And today, I think I can say I found the right mix. So I work as the social media manager of the organization, CERN, which means we handle their e-reputation across LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. Twitter has 2.5 million followers. So it's a huge digital community. And CERN, so I can still use my engineering interest. So I'll show you why, how this happened exactly. Okay. So before we talk about myself, maybe I just want to share, last few weeks have been really exciting for CERN. If you remember 10 years ago, CERN made a news like they discovered the God particle. So the God particle is actually the Higgs boson. And why this was one of the biggest scientific discoveries was because it gave mass to all the elementary particles we know in the standard model of particle physics. So now scientists could finally understand why do we exist, things like that. So this is a picture from 10 years ago on the left, and the person in the red t-shirt, she was one of the persons who presented the results for Higgs boson, and today she's the Director General of CERN, Fabiola Gianotti. So the first female physicist to become DG of CERN. And then after 10 years, we did an anniversary at CERN. And you can't really see me, but I'm happy to share I made it in the auditorium, somewhere really small in the front row. So the picture was taken from the back, so you can't see me. But on the screen, it's Peter Higgs. So Peter Higgs and Francois Englert were the two scientists behind the discovery of Nobel Prize winning Higgs boson. But there were many other people who made this collaboration. So next was another thing that happened. So Higgs boson is really the physics aspect, and now with standard model, lots of other things will come up in the future. But CERN is also home to engineering, computer scientists, and their biggest accelerator in the world is the Large Hadron Collider. But it's not the only accelerator at CERN. There are many other small ones that boost energy before the LHC. And the Large Hadron Collider started in 2008, and then it has run for 3 years. Then there's a pause for 3 years. So it's also the biggest machine in the world, and that takes lots of maintenance and upgrades. So for the last 3 years, the LHC was stopped and engineers were working on it. And last week, it started again and collided beams at the highest energy possible, so 13.6 tera electron volts. And this, so next slide. So what this basically means is, you see this 27-kilometer ring that's based in Switzerland and France, and it is surrounded by 4 big cameras, I could say them. So there are 4 big particle detectors: ATLAS, CMS in France, then ALICE and LHCb. These 4, what I call big cameras, actually help us in identifying which particles are making up our universe. And so with these high energy beams, we can actually start taking physics data now. And you see ATLAS and CMS they work independently. So scientists don't know what that experiment is working on or that experiment is working on. So when they observe something on the screen, they can verify if the other experiment saw the same thing or not independently. And that's how the Higgs boson discovery happened. So next. Okay, so one sec, Priya, just go before for a second. Yes, I wanted to show, oops. So these are the event displays. This is, oh, it's disappearing. Okay. So recently, James Webb Telescope pictures are really popular, but at CERN, what physicists were excited about were these event displays. So this is how the detectors capture the particle collisions, and the data has already started coming in. And so Atlas, you can see this is the first collision, and then across all the experiments, this was when the first collisions happened at the highest energy. Okay, so now moving on, I'll share a little bit about myself, how I ended up. But before that, we'll have to go 5 years back when I was deciding what to study. So in school, I took PCM, physics, chemistry, maths. And like most PCM students, I sat for IIT exam. My parents are from IIT Roorkee. My grandfather also teaches civil engineering. So I came from a scientific background. And for me, the obvious choice was to go and study engineering. And mechanical engineering was something that interested me a lot. So I started looking for options and came across a scholarship in Germany. And that's how I ended up in Germany. But few months after I realized this is not what I want to do, and I was in a foreign country with less resources. So it was a very tricky situation, but I say my bachelor's degree chose me because when I was in this faculty of engineering with industrial engineering, mechanical, there was just one program which also offered communication, science communication, with another engineering called bionics. And I immediately switched to that, not knowing what science communication is, but because I was very desperate and I wanted communications, but I didn't know what it is exactly. And just wanted to share, so this is the city of Cleve, and our astronomy club's picture is inspired from this beautiful crane. So this city was destroyed during World War II and it was made again, but some parts of the city were kept similar. So this crane was there and they made the entire university around this crane. And someone in our astronomy club imagined this to be a massive telescope, and this was the inspiration behind the logo. So I thought I would share this. Okay, so after this, another year of change at CERN and for me. So in the beginning, I mentioned CERN has 23 member states and it keeps on growing. What this means is we are actually eligible to apply for staff positions, work at CERN without changing your citizenship, for example. So with this Indian passport. And Government of India has been working with high energy physics since 1980s. So this Shiva statue was a gift from the Department of Atomic Energy India in 1980s, but only in 2016 or 2014, many years, like quite recently, India became an associate member state. So 2016 was the year when CERN officially shook hands with India that we can apply for jobs. And 2016 was also the year I started my studies in Germany. And then I came across a Russian colleague who was also a non-European, and she told me about CERN. And just after I completed my studies, CERN was the only place I wanted to go. So this happened. Okay. So this is a question for everyone. I want to know what you think is science communication, and then I'll build up on that. I don't know how you should do this. If you want to unmute and tell me what do you think is science communication, give an example, or feel free to write it in the chat. It could be something really stupid also, like writing, communicating science in which ways. So
Hello.
Vedam, yes. Hi.
Am I audible, ma'am?
Yes.
Hi, I am Sunil. Sunil, I am from Chennai. So, according to me, science communication is, if we know about like something like black holes and quasars or something like that, if we can explain that thing to a children in simplistic terms, so I think that is a best science communication to teach students about the things in the basic way. Yeah, that's all.
True. So I see some comments in the chat also. Thank you. It's kind of what you said, simplifying science to reach a large audience, and that's why you see this arrow, social science, because people is social science, studying about people, studying about communications. So if you go theoretically, what everyone has said is a very practical form of science communication, what you see on TV or research papers. If you move in the next slide, here you can see many more examples. So it's a trade of science and innovation journalism. And it can be done in many formats, not just writing research papers, for example, which is to communicate our research to a broader audience. It could be done at an organization level. So, for example, CERN or NASA or ITER, ESA. So, public relations and talking to journalists. But then there's also another side of science communication that is not spoken about. It's the political side of science. For example, during coronavirus pandemic, vaccinations were one of the biggest priorities, but also awareness about vaccinations. And sometimes you don't need a scientist or a politician. You need someone in between to be the lobbyist. And for example, in European Parliament, there are lots of science communicators, and risk communication is one of the fields in science communication, public affairs, regulation. So these are some examples of where I have been part of in science communication. Let's say in a conference in United Nations, there were many presentations, and the goal was to make it creative. So we did a quiz on sustainable development goals. Then Deutsche Welle is Germany's international broadcaster, and they also have many science shows. In fact, science shows that are shown in Doordarshan, in India's oldest TV channel. So I worked on Manthan, which is a science show. And then these days, Sehat is one of the science shows that's going on. And they talk about health. So it is simplifying science to a general audience, but what I wanted to mention is it's much more than that. Earthquake communications would lie under science communication, lobbyism, and so on. And also, for example, complex technologies like brain computing interface. People think it's something changing the human body or something crazy, simple as that. But actually, brain computing interface technologies, they can help visually impaired people to see if it works out, because it takes signals instead of auditory nerves, it can use other muscles to train from the brain, and those people can see. But these are the risks that we need to gain trust of the public, and science communication could be one of the programs for that. So, moving on to digital media, which is a more growing depth of science communication. So nowadays, it's not just about TV shows and journalism, but I think science is getting accessible on our smartphones, and people are losing attention. So how to make it exciting? So I see Tushar has given a nice example to do science communication with animation or videos, visual effects. So this is in that line exactly. And how to think of the out of the box. So for example, in CERN social media, we during the pandemic, especially when people can't go to the laboratory, we were disconnected. So we started doing social media lives so we could go there inside the tunnel, and we would show people across the lab and ask questions, Q&A. But then there are memes and other ways of taking science to people. And sometimes it's not just about explaining, it's about just making people interested. Someone who has no idea about what an accelerator is, just making him interested that there could be a collider, but there's also a lot of physics. So in my next slide, I want to give an example of a campaign that we did. So during Halloween in October, which is a big thing in the West, but for astronomers, astronomy, physics people, for us it's special on 31st October. That is celebrated as Dark Matter Day. And what we basically did, we asked our followers from all across the world to submit their questions. And then we asked scientists to do the same thing, submit their videos with those answers. And then we made a series of answering questions. And people had lots of interesting questions, like what happens when dark matter mixes with human blood or brain neurons? Or how do you stay motivated to find dark matter? So this really helped to give a human aspect of science. And that's what we are trying to do with digital media, to explain science, but also about the people who are doing science. So yes, and this we got participation from Pakistan, Turkey, Iran, and these are our scientists, Suchita from the US, Marco from Paris, and I think the pandemic has already taught us the importance of online and digital media. So yeah. Okay, so I wanted to also mention this is not my area of expertise, so I'll say this in advance. But in CERN Communications, we work with almost everyone, electronics, space, medical applications. So I can give you a brief overview of aerospace today. So CERN has one of the interesting departments that I would ask you all to check out, which is knowledge transfer. So one of the major CERN is a research facility, but these research produce applications. For example, many years ago, a scientist wanted to share his theory to many people, and that's how he developed the domain www, which is called the World Wide Web. So that was invented at CERN by a British physicist, Tim Berners-Lee. So these are the kind of things that happen. Then medical applications are very popular as well. For example, antimatter discovery. it led to PET scans. PET scans are the ones you see everywhere in hospital today if you get a fracture or want to see a tumor. So these things happen. And in aerospace, if you move, I'll give 2 examples, and then it would be time for questions. In the next slide. So in this picture, you see Luca Permitano, an Italian astronaut. And usually with ESA and NASA, you see the exciting space launches. And I think Ravi sir can tell you more about that. But at CERN, we do a rather boring topic, not boring because this boring thing is the one that makes these rocket launches happen. So a lot of satellite testing happens in CERN. Lots of detector specialization happens in CERN. And Luca Permitano is carrying a detector called AMS detector. And this is part of AMS experiment that is actually based at CERN. And then the data comes from NASA, it is sent to ESA, and then the data is analyzed at CERN. And this detector is looking for dark matter particles in space. So lots of specialization related to that. Then another one I wanted to share, and this is the first time for CERN. A CERN-driven satellite called Celesta has been sent into space. So maybe some of you know, recently ESA had this Vega C launch of and in this launch, a CERN satellite was sent into space. And CERN has a lot of expertise in radiation and how we can make more electronics, so more robots that can be sent in radiation heavy areas instead of human beings. So this satellite is also trying to study effects of cosmic radiation in electronics. And it's basically a miniature version of what device they have in the LHC. So now slowly it's getting sent into space. And there are many such examples for space and CERN technologies. Yeah. So I think that, yes, brings me to the end of this. There's so much more to say, but I'll let you ask questions and then share my ideas.
A great talk, Chetna. Really nice overview of what CERN does, especially the applications of it. And if there are any questions in the chat, well, we would suggest if you can put your questions on Slido link, which we have shared with you, because it will be a little difficult for us to manage all the questions in the chat. I think so. We have already shared a link with you. And I'll share it again.
From Tushar. So yes, please ask in Hindi, English, no problem.
You can also raise your hands and turn on your cams. So this is a Slido link which I've shared with you. You can type your questions in there. Yes, I think someone has raised their hand. Rohit Nair.
Am I audible, ma'am?
Yeah.
So I want to ask about Beamline for high schools. So now I am enrolled at undergraduate program. So can I participate in Beamline for high school?
Oh, so Beamline for high schools is for high school students, but undergraduation, then you can in fact go for something longer, which is called Technical Student Program, and it's a 14-month program at CERN. So usually students in their BSc or BTech apply in the last year, and then you can do your thesis at CERN. Beamline for schools competition is for 15 to 18 years old. So I think last 2 years of school. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
There are a lot of questions on Slido. I would like to ask that if no one else is raising their hands. So there's this question. Is there any research going on, particularly in SciComm or science education? And if yes, how is that like?
Yes. So it's like I said, scientists are another world and then social scientists are another world. So I did my thesis on CERN videos. What kind of videos help in reaching a larger audience? What people like? Physics Girl is one of the most popular YouTubers. So yes, there's a lot of research done, and you can apply your thesis in organizations, do it with universities. So if you go for a master's in science communication, for example, this is one of the requirements that you have to do a research in these fields.
Then there's a question by Sunil Kumar Barik. How to write a compelling motivation letter for CERN Junior Fellowship program, and what is the future after completing the fellowship program?
Ooh, compelling cover letter. So I'll answer the second question first. Future after your fellowship. So this is the thing. In this fellowship, it's like a training opportunity. So you learn a lot, and because you meet physicists and universities from all over the world, you make connections. And when people leave CERN, they start their own organizations. One of the best examples is one of the CERN alumni is the founder of LinkedIn. And so I think if you do get into fellowship, don't worry about the future. And cover letter, I think reference letters from your professors are really important, and your work should speak for itself. So cover letter, there is no magic formula, but if you manage to get good recommendation letters and your professor could mention what task exactly you did and how it can help in the job, I think that's something very useful.
So there's a question by Mohit. What are the most important skills for a science communicator, and how do we overcome over the hesitations in our mind before we start any type of public speaking?
Yes, I think you can start with your parents. So just explain what you're excited about if you want astronomy. And I think that's a good start already. If your parents can, for example, in my case, if I can just, and my father is an electronics engineer, but still I have difficulties explaining him what is the Large Hadron Collider. So start from your family members, then you can start with your friends. And I think it's good to join a club. So in your university, there should be many clubs and many opportunities like that. So that's your comfort space. And with time, it just happens naturally. So it's not that difficult.
There's one question by someone. As an Indian pursuing a MSc Biotech course, is there any job opportunities at CERN?
So I think it would, for the, as far as I know, there is research going on in proton therapy, biomedical applications, but I don't know if CERN actively looks for biotech engineers or it's the collaborations. So for example, CERN collaborates with some hospitals in Europe, CHUV, CHUV, Lausanne, and they might be looking for these experts. So you should check out Knowledge Transfer CERN, and maybe they would know something in this field.
There's a question in Hindi. I'll translate it for some audience members who don't know Hindi. सो क्या ड्रॉप आउट स्टूडेंट्स साइंस कम्युनिकेटर स्किल्स सीख कर अपना करियर बना सकते हैं विज्ञान जगत में? अगर हाँ तो कैसे? सो समवन इज आस्किंग दैट इफ अ पर्सन हु हैज ड्रॉप आउट, who is a dropout, can he or she make a career in science communication? If yes, then how can they make this career?
Can I ask the person's name? If you can see
There
it.
was no. Yeah, it
Okay.
was sent anonymous.
So,
I think he has sent one more same question again. There's a question by Tushar Nagin Framewala.
yeah. So, मैं इसका आंसर दो पार्ट्स में दूंगी and I'll explain both in Hindi and English so everyone understands. But हाँ बिल्कुल possible है. I was one of them. In fact, जब I started mechanical engineering, मैं भी इसी situation में थी. But I wouldn't say science communication should be your backup option. आपको काफ़ी पैशनेट होना पड़ेगा उस चीज़ के लिए. तो मुझे लिखना बहुत पसंद था एंड व्हेन आई वाज डूइंग इंजीनियरिंग मैं साथ के साथ लिखती थी इवन इफ आई डोंट नो कि कौन पढ़ रहा है उस ब्लॉग को. सो यू नीड टू हैव स्किल्स for that and you can develop them, but if you are a dropout, for example, you still need to go for some solid degree because and for me that case was science communication, but I also did bionics BSc. So आप साथ साथ अपने skills develop कर सकते हो, but don't look at it as a backup option. You should be really passionate about it.
So there's one more question from Sunil Kumar Barik. What research is going on in material science domain?
So I think CERN requires lots of civil engineers because, as you can imagine, these accelerators that are built 100 meters underground, and for that they also require lots of material scientists. In fact, in the next coming years, so the Large Hadron Collider is 27 kilometers, but at some point they would increase the length and more cities. So the proposal is for 100-kilometer tunnel. And for this, lots of material will be excavated. So they are having a competition called Mining the Future to see how we can be sustainable with this material. And I think maybe they would be looking for material scientists in those projects. So for everyone, I think this website is very useful. I've just sent it in the chat. And there you can read about different disciplines.
Yeah, you just talked about the 100-kilometer LHC. What was the name of it? I forgot it. Yeah.
So
if you can tell anything about that.
Yes, it's called FCC, Future CERN Collider. But we are, as communication people, we are thinking of another name because right now it's called FCC. But what if it gets accepted? Then it's not the future anymore. And then we would have to think of what to do with the F. So right now it's Future CERN Collider. That's how they call it.
That's nice. There's a hand raised by Tushar Nagin. You can unmute yourself, Tushar.
I'm audible? Hello? हाँ एको तो नहीं हो रहा है ना?
नहीं it's okay.
ओके मेरा जैसे मैंने पहले सवाल पूछा था ड्रॉप आउट स्टूडेंट के लिए, तो उसमें स्किल के आपने पैशनेट के बारे में बताया था, तो मैं तो बहुत ही ज्यादा पैशनेट या फिर जिज्ञासु साइंस के प्रति, विषय के प्रति, लेकिन आपने स्किल के बारे में बताया कि वो किस तरह से कर सकते हैं, उसको कैसे किया जाए, वो उसके बारे में थोड़ा मार्गदर्शन बता सकते हैं. प्लस अगर मुझे एस्ट्रोनॉमी में ज्यादा दिलचस्पी है तो एस्ट्रोनॉमर में बन सकता हूँ. और दूसरा दो सवाल और है कि अगर पॉसिबल हो तो आपका लिंक्डइन प्रोफाइल ऐसा कुछ अगर आगे चलकर कुछ संपर्क करना हो तो हो सकता है, अगर पॉसिबल हो तो. और आपका जो वेबिनार हो गया इस तरह का या सीएनआर का जो वेबिनार वगैरह होते तो उसको कांटेक्ट कैसे करके कर सके, क्योंकि भारत के अंदर इसके बारे में ज्यादा तो जानकारी है ही नहीं, कुछ ही लोगों को मिल रही है जानकारी, इसीलिए बोल रहा हूँ।
हाँ, नहीं, पहले तो थैंक यू इतना एक्साइटमेंट के लिए, और मैं स्टेप बाय स्टेप अब क्वेश्चंस को आंसर करती हूँ। तो पहले जो आपने कहा स्किल्स कैसे डेवलप कर सकते हैं, एंड आपका आई थिंक पैशन तो ऑलरेडी सुनाई दे रहा है। सो मैंने अपने केस में आर्टिकल्स लिखने शुरू करे थे, और फिर मैं अपने आर्टिकल्स सेंड करती थी काफ़ी जगहों पर। सो फॉर हिंदी ऑल्सो यू कैन स्टार्ट विद अदर न्यूज़पेपर्स। एक चीज़ जो मैंने जर्मनी में सीखी है कि यू डोंट हैव टू बी गुड इन इंग्लिश टू कम्युनिकेट साइंस, इट्स जस्ट अ मैटर ऑफ योर नॉलेज। तो अगर यू कम्युनिकेट, मतलब यू विल फाइंड योर प्लेटफॉर्म्स जहाँ पे क्या कहते हैं यू कैन सेंड योर आर्टिकल्स। फिर how did I develop skills? I think Udemy is also one platform. Maybe some people already know about it, जहाँ पे you can learn इस तरह की चीजें। और honestly यूनिवर्सिटी में या कॉलेज में take opportunities, अपने प्रोफेसर्स को परेशान करो, ask them for projects, और that's how I did it. और क्या क्वेश्चन था? सेकंड वाज
मैं आपका लिंक्डइन प्रोफाइल या कॉन्टैक्ट डिटेल अगर आपसे ज्यादा संपर्क करना हो तो। और मेरे बारे में बता देता हूँ, मैं खुद ही एक ड्रॉप आउट स्टूडेंट हूँ, स्कूल स्टूडेंट। तो मुझे स्कूल या कॉलेज के जो प्रोफेसर या टीचर होते हैं उनसे ज्यादा ये नहीं होते। मेरे जैसे भी काफी सारे लोग हैं, तो उनके बिहाफ में मैं ये क्वेश्चन पूछ रहा हूँ कि वो घर पे बैठे या फिर जो जॉब वगैरह करते तो वो किस तरह से इसके अंदर आगे बढ़ सकते हैं, इसीलिए मैं बताया था। और इंटरव्यू के बारे में बताया था, वो ज्यादातर ये सब कुछ होता है ना इंग्लिश में होता है, काफी लोगों को इंग्लिश समझ में नहीं आती। मेरी बात छोड़ लीजिए, बाकी सबों की बात बोल रहा हूँ, उनके लिए कैसे कर सकते हो, इसीलिए बोला था। और आर्टिकल की बात की जाए तो आर्टिकल को छोड़ के दूसरा अगर वीडियो बनाना या फिर वेबिनार बनाना है तो वो उसके कुछ स्किल या कोर्स होते हैं, वो कैसे हो सकते हैं, वो बताना था।
आई थिंक मैं राइटिंग में ज़्यादा फोकस कर रही हूँ क्योंकि मुझे राइटिंग ज़्यादा पसंद है, तो वो मेरा लिटरली मेन काम है। लेकिन वीडियोस आप पहले तो म्यूजियम्स आर अ गुड प्लेस टू स्टार्ट। तो प्लानिटेरियम एंड लोकल म्यूजियम, और यहाँ पे आई थिंक हर एक टाइप के लोग आते हैं। सो लाइक हर एक लैंग्वेज, हिंदी में, इंग्लिश में, अदर लैंग्वेजेस। सो म्यूजियम्स के साथ टच में होना अच्छा आइडिया है। फिर आई थिंक एक चीज़ कहते हैं साइंस वैन, एंड दिस इज समथिंग दैट्स हैपनिंग इन गुजरात आई थिंक, कि वो मोबाइल वैन्स में दे कीप साइंस एक्सपेरिमेंट्स, तो you should look for that. Just Google Science Van Gujarat. Sorry, I don't remember exact details. और आप अपने वीडियो मेकिंग स्किल्स, पहले आजकल तो सिंपल क्रिएटिविटी मैटर करती है, तो पहले जस्ट ट्राई अपने फ़ोन से कि आपको क्या एग्जैक्टली बनाने की कोशिश करनी है। फिर यू कैन शो इट टू पीपल, उनसे फीडबैक पूछो। एंड स्किल्स के लिए बहुत ही बेसिक आंसर दूंगी मैं, बट आई थिंक यूट्यूब वीडियोस आर अ गुड स्टार्ट इफ यू आर इंटरेस्टेड। और जस्ट प्रैक्टिस फ्रॉम योर फोन, अगर कैमरा नहीं है तो। मेन है कि स्टोरी क्या बताना चाहते हो, सो थिंक ऑफ अ स्टोरी। And yes, for everyone, you can reach out to me on my LinkedIn या फिर Instagram.
There are more questions in our Slido. So there's one by Chirag Sharma. Is there some research going on in data science and artificial intelligence at CERN?
Yeah, that's a very good question, because with the next run 3 of LHC, a lot of focus is on machine learning and how data can be analyzed on its own. And so much data is produced at CERN that scientists are always looking for how to be more energy efficient with machine learning and lots of, in fact, there's a joke that there might be more computer scientists at CERN than scientists, or more engineers. because every department produces so much data, and that needs data science and now also AI. So I'm thinking of a good source for you. Again, if you'll go on careers.cern, you will see some computing opportunities in fellowship, and you can read about the job description. So you will get an idea how they are looking for machine learning in high energy physics. It's a very interesting topic.
I do agree. I think machine learning and data science skills are really important in every field right now. Like, you can go in any field and you'll find that everything needs to be visualized now, which makes it easier. And also, there are things which you maybe you cannot like. It will take time for you to reach in physical world, but you can still go to it through data science. It's completely true. There's also a question by Vedang. What skills like like Photoshop, editing, etc. are needed to manage social media account for an organization like CERN?
Yeah, that's so. At you saw my ring bell. Just 1 second. I'm gonna just give me a second. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Okay, I think so. There are some questions in the chat. This is for the audience members. If you can put those questions in Slido, that will be great, because it is going to be a lot of trouble if I go through all the chat, because there are some comments also. So please, I would request you to put your questions on Slido rather than in chat.
Yeah. Sorry, Will. Can you repeat the last question?
Yeah, so there was someone who was asking what kind of social media skills and like Photoshop editing, or is there any particular platform you need to master for getting
Yes.
social media, for doing science communication work at CERN?
Yeah. At CERN, in addition to social media, there's also audio visual production team, and they are the ones really responsible with like photography, videography, and they have big cameras and everything. So there's skills for that. In social media team, really, I'm the one encouraging mobile journalism, smartphone reporting, Instagram stories, vertical formats, at some point TikTok maybe. And Canva is one of the best tools we have come across. It's free, but their pro version has also some interesting elements. And then lots of tools are related to scheduling, because we can't publish all the time. So we schedule them in advance. And for that, Buffer is an interesting tool. And another aspect of social media is analysis. So it's a lot of maths, which I didn't realize before doing my thesis. So for analysis, maybe this is not your question and I'm giving more information, but Iconosquare is a very interesting tool. Iconosquare. Besides Canva, Capring is also quite interesting. We don't really use Photoshop in social media team, but because we also have a design team, and I think they have Adobe Suite. So but in social media, we keep it simple, and most of the things we get it, and Canva kind of matches all our needs. Yeah.
There's a question by someone. I'm doing a master's in physics. To do psychom after MSc physics, is it necessary to do another master's in psychom?
To do another.
To do psychom after MSc physics, is it necessary to do another master's in psychom?
Okay. So It depends. In your MSc Physics and BSc, if you have already built a background in science communication, maybe that's enough for you to show that you have good skills and strength and knowledge. But doing masters in science communication is obviously good, because then you realize that it's so much more than just telling science in simple words. There's a lot of understanding people, how you can gain trust, the political side. So it's like there's no yes or no answer to this. It depends on what you did during your studies. But some master programs for science communication are only 1 year. Many of them are also online. So it's good to dive yourself into something full-fledged besides doing natural sciences. So I would say it's a good suggestion, but it's not mandatory.
Wait, there's one more question. What are some courses or some books you would recommend for starting out in SciComm?
Oh, nice. Books. I really like one book called On Writing Well. I'm sending it in the chat. It's such a simple book. That's why I like it. It says writing about places, writing about people, writing about an event, things like that, and how you can really. It's nice book. Just read it. Another magazine that I like is Symmetry, and it's a magazine owned by Fermilab SLAC in the US for high energy physics. And just reading their articles is also quite nice. Other books for science communication, I don't think books are really popular. It's more like research papers, maybe from some authors. But so you can go for something specific. If you're interested in videos, look for popular YouTubers. If you're interested in books, then I suggest this magazine and this book.
I think if it's okay, I can suggest a book which was suggested to me by Dr. Rajni Jangra. Because I think science communication, there are many ways in which you can communicate science, and for being able to deliver well when you're talking, that's also an important part. And if someone wants to go to that side, there is this book, Houston, we have a narrative. I've shared it in chat. If anyone is interested in that, maybe you can even go to that side also. And there we have one more question by Vedang. Are there remote work opportunities at CERN?
So I think after the pandemic, even during the pandemic, we were supposed to come to CERN site, and then the entire organization moved to teleworking, work from home. But at the moment, no, there are not full-fledged opportunities for remote working. It's more like if you come to CERN and then you can take remote working, and for 1 month you can work from India or somewhere else. But specifically, I don't think so.
There's a comment by Chirag Sharma. Thanks a lot, ma'am. Since I just passed my first year from IIT in data science and AI, I'll be having a lot of time in working on these kind of projects.
That's great. You should really check out, just type machine learning run 3 CERN, and I think you will find something you like, and you're already studying it, so you might be one of the good candidates.
There's one more question. For future events and webinars from CERN organization, how can we get it? And also, how can be a member of this CERN organization? Please guide.
So you mean like how are when other talks are happening, how can you join them?
I think so. Someone is asking that. If they would like to elaborate and would like to unmute them, then they can. It's the
I
short.
think, yeah, it's a good question because I don't know the answer to that. I know how CERN members can join CERN talks, but outside, I think how we lots of times communicate on social media, and then you come across a talk and then we promote it. For example, when Nobel Prize winner Daniel Kahneman, he gives a talk, we open it to people outside CERN as well. But I think we don't have any other way besides CERN website. So you can Google CERN news, and then there is a website that will appear, and also social media post. Also on Facebook and LinkedIn, lots of events are created, so you can join from them. Yeah.
And the person also asks, how can we be a member of this CERN organization?
Yeah. So there are many opportunities. I'll start from the lowest to the highest age group. If you are a high school student from like 9th standard to 12th standard, at least now that's how it works in CBSE board, you are eligible for forming your teams. And someone mentioned Beamline for Schools in the beginning. So it's really like to have a feasible idea and how you can do it at a particle accelerator. So you can have a team of 5 to 10 students and your coach. It could also be a tuition, sir. Doesn't have to be from your school. Then growing undergraduation, bachelor technical student programs and administrative student programs. So that's one of the opportunities. Then short-term programs, short-term internships, you should look for. They are easier to get in, and then you can always go back to a higher contract. And then at research level, there are other opportunities like doctoral student. So if you have a PhD project and a supervisor and a university, and you find someone from CERN, so you would see this in careers.cern website. Doctoral student, yeah. So I think these are one of the most popular ways of coming to CERN.
I think so. Everyone's questions has been answered, and there are some comments. Thank you, ma'am, for answering my questions. It will be very much helpful for me and give me a certain direction for applying for the fellowship program. This was by Sunil Kumar Barik. Someone is asking if you can share a link of all these programs and internships which you have shared. If there is any link, or is there any way they can get all the information?
Yes. So as I mentioned, careers.cern. Let me. So it's this website. Really, it's. If you click on this website, you will come across student opportunities, and they explain all the. This one is also nice. I'm adding them in the chat. So this website gives description of everything I was saying.
I think so everyone else's questions has been answered. I was just having a little question. So everyone knows, like when you are presenting yourself in front of social media, that okay, this is going like this and that, but they don't know about what goes on behind the scenes. I mean, managing a small scale program can also be a lot more challenging. Like, so because we manage some events at NSS, so we have a little kind of experience on how does it goes, but you manage events on much larger scale. So can you share something about that?
Sure, I can give an example of the recent Run 3 launch when lots of scientists were sitting in CERN control center looking at the screens, and behind us was a big audio video production truck. So it was very stressful. It takes coordination on many aspects, lots of departments. So, for example, when we did this Facebook Live, we also did it on YouTube and LinkedIn. With us, we had a team of 10 physicists sitting, and some of them were responsible for reviewing the comments. Some of them were responsible for answering the comments. So it was a mix of excitement, and we also had technical errors. So because this live was happening in 5 languages, in the first 5 minutes, the English audio was mixed with the German audio. So this happens, and then we have to be proactive in finding solutions as we go, even though we had lots of technical tests. So this happens. So coordinating with lots of people, technical side of it, promotion before the live. So it's on many levels, but it was very exciting. Thanks, Priya, for asking this question.
Thank you so much. It was a really, really informative talk. If anyone else is having any questions, we have 5 minutes left with us. If any one of you would like to come up and share anything about, if you are having some experience about science communication, or if there is anything you would like to ask, you're most welcome. So someone has raised hand. Mohit, you can unmute yourself. Mohit, would you like to unmute yourself?
And I'm sharing my LinkedIn, and it's, if people want to ask me questions after the talk, I'll try my best. But I'm more active. Yeah.
Sorry.
No, I was saying if anyone wants to reach out after, it's completely okay. And I'm more active on Instagram, so that's where I actually reply to questions. And on LinkedIn, I try my best. It's as everyone wants.
There was a question from Mohit. I think so. Mohit, you can unmute yourself.
Thank you. Thank you, Chetna, for this talk. And someone asked about for programs about in CERN. So I just share one website, that is Indico. Indico is a website that update you, and one more is Inspire HEP, which give you a lot of information in high energy physics and about CERN. So that's good, everyone. So I just share this, and thanks again, Chetna.
No, thanks for mentioning. So Indico is a CERN developed tool that recently won a prize for the best open source tool in Europe or something. And that's the one they use to inform about webinars in CERN community. And I think now it's clear to also people outside CERN. So feel free to write the links in the chat so people can refer.
I think that Tushar wants to unmute himself. Wants to say something, Tushar?
I'm audible now?
Yeah, you are.
क्या आपके पास थोड़ा समय है या फिर मैं माइक बंद कर दूं?
हमारे पास थोड़ा सा ही टाइम है. This will be the last question, so please can you ask it fast?
हाँ, मैं ये बताना चाहता था कि साइंस कम्युनिकेट के लिए जो आप बता रहे इस पे चर्चा हो रही है, तो मैंने जहाँ तक मैंने ऑब्जर्व किया अभी तक जितने भी वेबिनार ये सब कुछ होते हैं, वो जो स्कूल स्टूडेंट है उनके थोड़ा बोरिंग सा हो जाता है क्योंकि वो इतना समझ नहीं पाते. तो मैं भी मेरी तरफ से खुद से कोशिश कर रहा हूँ कि या इसको क्या बहुत ही ज्यादा दिलचस्प तरीके से या फिर सिमुलेटेड जो वेबसाइट होती है, कुछ नासा की हो गई, नासा का आई करके वेबसाइट है, उस तरह की कुछ वेबसाइट है करके ये वेबिनार वगैरह करके स्कूल स्टूडेंट हो जिनको समझ में नहीं आता उनको एक कर सके। तो ऐसे ही मेरी कोशिश चल रही है, और अगर संभव हुआ तो आप सभी के साथ मिलके आने वाले समय में फिर से इस तरह के कुछ वेबिनार हो सकते तो अच्छा रहेगा, जो स्कूल स्टूडेंट के लिए भी क्या बोलते हैं फायदे कारक हो। और मैंने जैसे आपका क्वेश्चन पढ़ा था, वेबिनार आप करते हैं, सामने आप होते हैं, लेकिन पीछे के साइड में बहुत कुछ चल रहा होता है, कुछ टेक्निकल प्रॉब्लम हो जाते हैं, वो सब कुछ संभालना, या फिर कुछ उल्टे सुल्टे लोग आ जाते हैं, मैसेज को एक करना, वो सब कुछ संभालना, मैं समझ सकता हूँ वो सब कुछ। मैं कोशिश कर रहा हूँ कि एक एप्लीकेशन ऐसा कुछ, वेबसाइट ऐसा कुछ बनाऊं खासतौर पर भारतीयों के लिए, जिसके अंदर से ये सब कुछ प्रॉब्लम एक ही बार में क्या बोलते हैं अंत हो जाए, और आसानी से स्कूल स्टूडेंट हो गया, कॉलेज स्टूडेंट हो गया, फिर मेरे जैसे ड्रॉपर स्टूडेंट हो गए, आप जैसे लोगों के साथ कांटेक्ट करके और भी ज्यादा जानकारी आदान प्रदान कर सके। मेरी कोशिश चल रही है अभी इसी दिशा में। थैंक यू, और कुछ गलत बोला हो तो माफी चाहता हूँ।
थैंक यू। और आई थिंक ये बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट टॉपिक है कि हम यंग जनरेशन के लिए इजी भाषा में क्या कहते हैं फिजिक्स पे कम्युनिकेट करें, और सेम इंटेंशन के साथ आई थिंक किसी और ने भी इस टाइप का क्लब शुरू किया है, एंड शी यूज्ड टू वर्क एट CERN, सो आई मैसेज्ड इट इन द चैट अगर आप देखना चाहें। इट्स कॉल्ड क्लब निसाबा, एंड रियली शी टेक्स इजी टॉपिक्स and does this. So it's like Khan Academy but free, and really for physics and astronomy related topics. और I think इसके बारे में और बहुत सारे initiatives ले सकते हैं।
Thank you so much, Chetna. We have taken so much time of yours. I think so we'll stop it now. We won't be taking any more questions, but if any one of you have any questions about space sciences or science communication, you can reach out to us on NSS. We have our social media platforms, and we also have our community platform, which is Mighty Networks, where we will be answering all of your questions. And if there are any more questions, important questions which are left out, you can share it with us. We'll always try to get all the answers for you, other than also science communication, because we all are here. Our whole team is sitting here just to answer questions on EM in space, and we all would like to promote it as much as possible. And with your help, it will be great to promote it. Thank you so much. Tushar, I'm sorry, can you type what you want to say, because we are running out of time now?
I'm audible?
Yeah.
मेरा आपसे, आपके ऑर्गेनाइजर से मेरा एक सवाल है। आप मुंबई से है ना? मुंबई में आपकी संस्था कहाँ पे? मैं अगर बारिश के बाद मैं आपके ऑफिस में आके मिलना चाहूंगा और बातचीत करना चाहूंगा इस पे विस्तार से, इसीलिए मैं बोल रहा था, अगर पॉसिबल हो तो। मैं भी मुंबई से हूँ खुद से, इसीलिए बोल रहा था।
Tushar, we will. You can check our email ID on. I'll share it in the chat where you can reach out to us. We will be replying you, and we will be.
तो चलेगा? मैं हिंदी में लिखूंगा तो चलेगा?
Yeah, कोई problem नहीं है. That's not an issue. Yeah. Okay. Well. Thank you so much, Chetna. We won't be taking any more time of yours. We also have our mentor, Dr. Ravi Marsayam. Sir, would you like to say anything to all of the people present here?
Yeah, maybe take a few minutes. Let's thank our guest, Chetna Krishna, really for coming over to NSS Mumbai. This organization is a very unique organization in India, with that really founded on just the four-letter word hope, basically. Give hope to the entire country after Kalpana Chawla didn't make it back from our second launch of Columbia, and we were talking about coming back to India, but it didn't happen. So in 2019 we started this organization, and we want to promote science, technology, engineering, math, not only STEM subjects, but I think this lecture clearly brought up a question of having soft skills. It's very important that you have to be an I-type person. When I say I, the vertical line talks about your core skills. In my case, it would be a mechanical engineer, aerospace engineer. On the top, it is the hard skills or the multidisciplinary skills, working in many different industries and trying to understand, let's say systems engineering, knowing about other aspects of engineering. And last but not least, the foundation of the I is in the bottom. That's where soft skills come into picture, where communication skills are very, very critical. In my own case, I was a very shy and introvert kid growing up in Mumbai. I wouldn't even come to talk to anybody or run away from people, in fact. But I had to change my mindset. And I think it's important that this particular topic today really enlighten the people about the importance of communication in the first place, but more importantly, importance of science communication. As Von Karman from JPL said, scientists study the world as is, but engineers create the world which never was. Yes, today our audience talked about CERN and Large Hadron Collider and all that. In the end, it's great that science and technology, science and math combined together are working through engineers' tools to come up with technology, basically. And you have science and math on one side, technology on the other side. Right in the center is engineering, and that's STEM for you, or STEAM for you. Why I'm impressing upon you all that is because many questions were talking about how do I communicate, and I think it's important. First, they start learning about failures, and failures are very important in life. Success through failure is a paradox of your life and career, and it's important that Benjamin Franklin, our founding father, said, write something worth reading or do something worth writing about. And it's very important that these people who ask questions, I want them to write something. I don't care whether it's in Hindi or English or Kannada, and I myself speak about 7 or 8 languages in India. So really, you can communicate in any language you want, as long as you start at a very low level. When astronaut Pamela Melroy, who is my own mentor, she's now the deputy administrator of whole of NASA in USA. She said, I said, Pam, I can't even talk to you. How am I going to talk to all the people in front of 1,000 kids? And she said, oh, no, don't worry. Start with 1-year-olds, 2 years old, So when you're a baby, you crawl, you walk, you run, and then you fly. So just like that, I started working with small kids who didn't know anything about NASA. And so I knew more than them. So every time you talk to somebody, think that you know more than them, and everything happens without any things come out, and you don't have to know everything. I don't know everything either. Talking about CERN today, obviously I launched 100 rockets, 700 astronauts space. It's STS-134 in 2011. On Endeavour, we launched the Advanced Alpha Magnetic Spectrometer, $5 billion. It's sitting outside on the ISS. We work with Luca Parmitano, we work with CERN actually, and it is looking at many antimatters really to describe how our own galaxies were formed, how our whole universe, the age of the universe and other things, which is what now James Webb is doing. So one last thing I want to tell you guys is basically don't worry about mistakes and failures. Even when Dr. Abdul Kalam came to NASA, I was his tour guide. I said, sir, you're one of the greatest persons on earth. And I touched his feet and he said, no. One thing I want you to say that, look, we all try to climb our own Mount Everest and, find your own peak. Nobody is perfect and nobody has to climb Mount Everest again. Now there are many other mountains. So climb whatever you want to climb. And he said, look, I'm the president of I was president of India, and I'm this missile man and the aerospace man, but I never launched human to space, and which you have done. So he called me an astronaut maker of NASA. So you can become anything, if you keep your mindset to it. And what triggered all this journey for my own self? I was a small boy growing up in Mulund, Mumbai, India. And what brought me to NASA was that one trigger was watching that Hindi movie called Sangam and trying to become a pilot. So I never became a pilot, but it doesn't matter. Like Leonardo da Vinci says, If you can't fly, make others fly. And Von Braun said the same thing. If flight is not for me, let it be for others. So with that, I'll let our president of NSS take over. Thank you for giving me a time to talk. And anytime we want to help students in India, we'll try to help and make them the best, the gold standard in the world. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Prathamesh, would you like to give Chetna a vote of thanks?
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much, sir, for your kind words and as usual, the inspirational. Thank you so much, Chetna, for joining with us today and deliver this amazing session on SciComm. In India, especially, SciComm is quite crucial, and we hope to get more people from CERN to talk about LHC and its different aspects of LHC. And one thing that has always fascinated me about CERN is the data handling capability. Like, it's quite amazing because with every collision, you people are generating 1 petabytes of data and per second that too, and you're handling that data, storing somewhere across World Wide Web. It's amazing. And I hope everyone has enjoyed today's session. Thank you for joining with us today.
Thank you for having me, and for Ravi sir for so many interesting stories. And really make mistakes is what I also take away from it. That's how I ended up at CERN. I made a mistake of choosing mechanical, come to Germany, but every mistake led me to where I wanted, which was science communication. But if I didn't try engineering, I wouldn't realize that I wanted something like that. So yes, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Chetna, for joining us. Thank you so much. It was an amazing and very insightful session. So stay tuned with us for our next webinar, which is also on developing your soft skills. As Ravi sir and Chetna both have mentioned that you need some skills to go out in the world and explore yourself. We have our upcoming webinar on 7th of August, which is on developing your soft skills in collaboration with USIIC. You can find everything on our website. So stay tuned, and thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.